Hello everyone, welcome back to my SDL2 on Xcode series. In this tutorial project, we are going to build the classic snake game on Xcode using C and SDL2. This is episode 12. In this episode, we are going to make our snake move in the game scene here. To do so, we are going to implement the update functions in the game scene. And we would like our snake response to key press as well. For that, we are going to implement the handleEvent function for the game scene. Let's take a look and see how we are going to make the snake move. To do so, we are going to add two more fields in the game scene here. The first one we are going to add is called the frames, and the other one is called the speed. The frames is a counter to see whether or not we should make the snake move, and this speed is when should I move the snake. For now, let's try to initialize our speed or the speed for the snake to be 20 frames, meaning that when the frames counter reach 20, we are going to move the snake by one step, and that is our idea to move the snake. And to actually move it, we are going to, but before I do so, let me initialize the frames to be 0. So let's set the frames to be 0. And then let's go to the update function. So here is our update function. The first thing we need to do in here is to increase the frame counter and then check whether or not it is time for us to move the snake. We do so doing this, scene and then speed. So if they are the same, then we are ready to move the snake. And I'm going to define a function to move the snake here. So let me go back to here and then define a simple static function. So let me call it snake update. So we need this function because we're going to move the snake somewhere else. For example, when we change the direction. So we should define a function that we can call every time we need to change the position of a snake. So let me go to the very end of the file and then implement this function. This function will make the snake move and then reset the frame counter, and that's it. So let's go back to the update function. In here, we're going to update the snake. So it's in here, and that's it. And that should be able to let our snake run in the game scene. Let's take a look. Now you can see that our snake is moving and moving to the right. However, we do not stop the snake when we hit the boundary. So we need to do some code here. And the idea is that when we update this snake, we should check whether we can move the snake or not, right? So let's go back to our function here. We say, let's check. If the snake can move, then we're going to do the update just like before. Else, then we need to do some game logic here. This basically means that if the snake cannot move, then it is game over. What should we do in this state? Well, let's for now just restart this game. To restart the game, we simply now just initialize our game scene once again, and that will initialize the game scene. And so we need to change it to scene pointer. So let's try to run it. Now, if the snake runs to the boundary here, we will start over once again. You can see that. And that is how we handle the game over status for now. Later, we are going to do something more. So let's come back to the update function, and then that is good, but our snake is not ready to respond to the key press yet. To handle that, we're going to change the handleEvent function. Now you can see that there was already some code here. Basically, it said that if we press the button, we are going to we call the direction. And then if initially the direction is set to be -1, meaning that there's no direction set. And after this process here, if we have a direction, then we are going to change it. And let's see what happens if I press, say, the button. Say, you can see that our snake can now move. However, you can see that the snake doesn't look right because when you change the direction, you do not update the snake. In order to successfully or fix this bug, we are going to change the implementation of this function here, or the signature of this function. For now, it is a function that returns nothing, but we're going to make it return Boolean, meaning that indicate whether it successfully changed the direction. And in here, we're going to change this one to Boolean. And in this case, we return false because in these two cases, we would not change the direction. Otherwise, we return true. And that would be our implementation now. Let's come back to the game scene and see what should I do here. Basically, I just say if I change the direction successfully, so let me update my snake. And that's it. So if we go back to our game scene, now we won't have that issue now. So you can see that our snake can move smoothly, and it can also eat a fruit. So we can see that already if the snake runs into the boundary, it will start over. And we can see also when the snake runs into itself, it will start over as well because it is another situation where the game will over. So that is pretty much the implementation of the game scene and how you control the snake and how you update the snake by these two functions here. Now let's make the game a little bit better. When we reach the game over status, we do not want to restart the game directly. We would like to show a scene or show a screen saying that game is over, and we have a label that we can click in order to restart the game. To do so, I have implemented something called the game over scene. This scene is quite simple. It basically just put game over right in the middle of the scene, and then there's another label called replay. When you click the replay button, we're going to play the game once again. In order to make it into our game scene, we're going to include this game over file into our game scene. And then in the snake update function, instead of we start the game directly, we're going to go to the we're going to change the scene to the game over scene. So to do that, I should have the app as well, because this is the header file contain a function called app change scene. And then here we're going to call app change scene to be the game over scene. So game over get scene. So let's see what happens if now we reach game over scene. So let me check two things. What happens if I hit the boundary directly? And what will we see? Now you can see that when the snake hit the boundary, we will have a game over text coming up here, and also we have a label here saying whether we should replay. If we click the replay, then the game will start over from the beginning. Now let me see what happens if I run to the snake itself. Now you can see that if the snake runs into itself, we will have another game over scene pop up again. It's just say game over, and then again, once we click this replay button or replay a label, the game will start once again. And you can see that on top of this label and these two labels, you will see the game scene in the background as well. How can I achieve this? Well, it is quite simple. All you need to do is in the render code, do the following. You will render the game scene first, and then render the two labels that we have. Now, we reach the game over scene from the game scene when the snake either go into the boundary or go into itself. So this will capture the last moment of the game. So that is the reason why it will work in this way. And also that you can see that we handle event in this case because we would like to respond to the replay label. And I do a little bit change in the app.h file, and let me show you. The change is here. We see that we have a lot of label that when we click it, we will change to other scene. And for that purpose, I'm going to add another function called app change scene after init. This function is basically the same as app change scene, but before we do the app change scene, we will initialize the scene first. So you can see that the callback data is the game scene, and the callback is this function. Basically, when you click the replay label, it will initialize the game scene here, and then change the current scene to the game scene. And that is the implementation of this callback function here for the reply label. And that is for the game over scene. And you can see that for now, our game cannot pause. And you can only run until the snake bite into itself or run into the boundary that hit a game over status. What if I would like to pause our game for with some key press? Well, the idea is pretty much the same as the game over scene. We're going to develop something called the game pause scenes. Basically, it will render the game scene first and then render a label, in this case a resume label, which we can click and then go back to the scene. You can see that we have the same idea. But now in this case, we're not going to use the app change scene after init. We simply use the app change scene because we do not want to initialize the scenes in this case. So let's see how I'm going to put this game pause scenes into our game scene as well. So let me come to here. So let me include the game pause scene, and then in the handle event here. So let me respond to the escape key. So in this case, I'm going to do the following code. I'm going to do app change scene to the game pause get scene, and that should be able to pause the game for us. Let's see. Now we have our snake running here, and if we press the escape button, you can see that now our game is paused now, and we have a label saying resume in the middle of the scene. If we click the resume button, our game will resume and then return to the origin or return to the status before you stop the game or pause the game. So let me do it once again. You can see now it is pause, and then if I click this, we can continue playing our game. So this is the idea for us to implement game status. For each other different game status, we just make a different game scene. And this different game scene, or to be more precise, the scene that with different status. For example, there was a game over scene, there was a game pause scene. And the benefit of doing so is that these scenes are not interfere with each other. For example, when you go to the game over scene, it will not update the game scene anymore, right? Because we have different update function for different scene. And that's how you control the game status. So that is for this final game logic. When we come back next time, we are going to see how we are going to put the music and put the sounds into the game. Thank you for watching.